There are things in your life that are obvious. The big mistakes, the clear distractions, the moments you know you shouldn't have done something, but you did it anyway. Those are easy to identify. But the real danger in your life isn't always loud. It's quiet. It's subtle. It hides inside your daily routine, inside your normal behavior, inside things you do without even thinking. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because the habits that ruin your life are not always the ones you notice. They're the invisible ones. The small, repeated actions that slowly shape your reality until one day you wake up and realize you're not where you thought you would be, and you don't even know how you got there. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one habit at a time. You tell yourself it's nothing, just a small thing, just today, just this once. But those small things repeated over time become your life. One of the most dangerous invisible habits is how you start your day. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phone. Before their mind has even had a chance to wake up properly, they are already consuming information. Messages, notifications, social media, news, content. Their attention is hijacked before they even take control of it. And what happens next? Their mind becomes reactive. Instead of starting the day with intention, they start it with distraction. And that sets the tone for everything else. Because how you start your day often determines how you live your day. Another invisible habit is constant distraction. You may think you are resting. You may think you are taking a break. But what you're actually doing is overstimulating your brain. Scrolling endlessly, watching short videos, jumping from one piece of content to another. It feels harmless. It feels normal. But your brain is being trained to avoid focus, to seek quick rewards, to resist anything that requires effort. And over time, your ability to concentrate weakens, your patience decreases, your productivity drops. Not because you can't focus, but because you've trained your brain not to. Then there's the habit of delaying things that matter. You know what you need to do. You've thought about it many times, starting that project, learning that skill, making that change. But instead of acting, you wait. You tell yourself you'll do it later, when you feel ready, when the time is right, when things are easier. But later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And before you realize it, nothing has changed. This habit doesn't feel harmful in the moment, but it quietly steals your progress, because the longer you delay something important, the harder it becomes to start. Another invisible habit is negative self-talk. The way you speak to yourself matters more than you think. I can't do this. I always mess things up. These thoughts may seem small, but they shape your identity. They influence your decisions. They limit your actions. If you constantly tell yourself you can't do something, you will act like someone who can't. Not because it's true, but because you believe it is. And belief controls behavior. Then there's comparison. Looking at other people's lives, their progress, their success. It's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your life against theirs. And without realizing it, you start to feel behind. Not because you actually are, but because you're comparing your reality to someone else's highlight. This habit drains your motivation. It makes your progress feel small. It shifts your focus from growth to insecurity. And over time, it keeps you stuck. Another silent habit is avoiding discomfort. You choose what feels easy, what feels safe, what doesn't challenge you too much. But growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in discomfort. When you avoid difficult tasks, difficult conversations, difficult decisions, you avoid growth. And without growth, where life stays the same. There's also the habit of not finishing what you start. You begin something with excitement, you feel motivated. But when things get hard, when progress slows, when results don't come quickly, you stop. You move on to something else. And over time, you build a pattern. Starting becomes easy, finishing becomes rare, and without finishing, there are no results. Another invisible habit is overthinking. You think too much. You analyze every possibility. You consider every outcome. You wait for certainty, but action doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. And the more you think without acting, the more stuck you become, because clarity comes from action, not from endless thought. Then there's the habit of ignoring your environment. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the space you live in, all of these influence your mindset. If you surround yourself with negativity, with distraction, with people who lack direction, it affects you, even if you don't realize it, because your environment shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes your results. Another hidden habit is inconsistency. You do something for a few days, then stop. You try again, then stop. You start over again and again. Not because you lack ability, but because you lack consistency. And consistency is what turns effort into results. Without it, nothing compounds, nothing grows, everything resets. Then there's the habit of ignoring your potential. Deep down, you know you can do more. You know you're capable of better. But instead of acting on that, you settle. You accept less. You stay where you are, even when you know you shouldn't. Because stepping into your potential requires effort. It requires risk. It requires change. And change is uncomfortable. So you stay where it's familiar, even if it's not where you want to be. These habits don't look dangerous. They don't feel urgent. They don't create immediate consequences. That's why they go unnoticed. But over time, they shape your life. They determine your direction. They define your future. And if you don't become aware of them, they will continue to control you. Quietly, slowly, consistently. But here's the truth. What is learned can be unlearned. What is repeated can be changed. But it starts with awareness. You have to see these habits for what they are. Not just small actions, but patterns. Patterns that are either building your life or slowly destroying it. Once you become aware, you begin to take control. You start making intentional choices. You replace distraction with focus, delay with action, negativity with self-belief, comparison with self-improvement. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen over time, because change is not about one big decision. It's about small decisions repeated daily. And as those decisions change, your habits change. And as your habits change, your life changes. So if you feel stuck, if you feel like nothing is moving forward, if you feel like you're capable of more but not living up to it, don't just look at the big things. Look at the small ones, the invisible habits. Because that's where the real problem is, and that's where the real solution begins. If this made you think, if it opened your eyes to things you've been ignoring, then don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel for more insights that will help you take control of your habits, your mindset, and your life. Because sometimes the smallest changes create the biggest transformation. And the next video might be the one that helps you finally break the cycle.